Welcome to the Everyday is Saturday podcast, the #1 motivation show on the planet.
No more Mondays for you. It's time to make every day Saturday. Boom!
This is the podcast where we help you to accept who you are, not where you are.
On the roller coaster of life, you know we only sit in the front seat, champion. So make sure you are fastened in tight. Let's go!
Tired of feeling run down all the time during the week? We can help you make every day feel like it's a Saturday.
Let's go. Pack your bags. It's time to leave Averageville.
Introducing the man who thinks abnormal stands for above normal.
When you're on fire, people will travel from miles around to watch you burn, baby. We are fired up.
The host of the Everyday is Saturday show, Sam Crowley.
Hello, champion. Welcome back to the Everyday Saturday podcast. We'll dive right in. How about that? You know, yesterday I brought my dogs to the vet. I got a couple of Border Collies, and they're going to be 14 years old in the spring, so around March. And they're getting old, no doubt about it. The black and white one has the white face and the white eyebrows. And, you know, when I brought them to the vet yesterday, he took one look. He's like, oh, one's got cataract. She's almost blind. Oh, this one and our other one, Ginger, their names are Lucy and Ginger. And Ginger is a little bigger, a little heavier, and she really can't even jump anymore. It's so sad because, you know, you throw a tennis ball, you say the word ball, and their ears still, at almost 14 years old, perk up, and they're ready to go. Like, they're ready to get after it. And but Ginger can't really run that well. It's sad, but these dogs have taught me so many life lessons. I mean, they've appeared in my YouTube videos. I've posted about them on Instagram back in the day. And the funny thing, even at this advanced age, is that they never have a bad day. And I look at how much humans complain about stuff. You know, it's the weather or the aches and pains they have, or God forbid, politics or something incredibly stupid like that. Getting in arguments and complaining. Dogs never have a bad day. I mean, if you own a dog or if you've ever had one, you know this to be true. Like, you could leave the house for a minute, and when you come back, tails wagging like you were gone for a week, you know? And now that they're getting up there in age, you can tell they're not moving along very well, but like I said, they'll still jump for treats. They'll still chase a tennis ball. And these dogs, they've been in our family since 2010. And I remember when we got them, we were renovating an old home. It was actually Pop Warner's childhood home, if you ever heard of Pop Warner football. So it was in Western New York, and it was an old 1860 Victorian, beautiful house. But we were demoing all the walls. I mean, we were taking all this plaster and lath down. By we, I mean like me. I took a hammer to a wall almost every day, and it was so nasty in the house. I mean, we had to cordon off sections of the house, all the dust. And if you've ever demoed plaster and lath, you know what an absolute mess that is. Actually, one of the most listened podcasts of the Everyday Saturday show was a guy I hired off Craigslist at the time to help me get rid of like 18 garbage bags full of plaster and lath. And I found him on Craigslist. He came to my house one morning. It was about 7 o'clock in the morning, pitch black dark. My family was back in Ohio. I was the only one there because I went back for a week. It was kind of turned into our summer home. We lived there for about maybe a year, 18 months, but then we moved the family back to Ohio. So I went back for a week in February, and I had all like these huge 35-gallon bags filled with plaster and lath, and I needed someone to just take them away. And so this guy shows up at my house, and we start talking. It's dark. It's 7 a.m. in Western New York. It's probably 10 degrees outside. And his name was Jerry. I go, Jerry, how long have you been doing this? He goes, well, since I got out of prison. I was like, oh, that's interesting. I said, what were you in prison for? Well, I committed a triple murder, killed 3 people. I'm like, oh, well then. Then the next question was, hey, did you get that out of your system? A nervous laugh. It's just you and me in a driveway here at dark at 7 a.m. He goes, yeah. He goes, I was in 17 different penitentiaries in the New York State prison system. And, it was 1973. And, you know, me and my buddy went to rob a house. We were casing it for a week, and they were supposed to be on vacation, an older couple. Well, they didn't leave till the next day. We surprised them. Boom, boom, gun we had with us. Bang, bang, took them out. There was a witness when we were leaving, so we took that person out, total of 3 people, and that's how basically I spent my whole life in prison. It was a fascinating story, obviously a very sad story, but he ended up becoming a speaker. And I had him on my podcast. His name's Jerry Ballone. If you ever search it on my site, you can check out the interview. It's the most downloaded podcast ever since I've been doing this show for the past 18 years. The reason people found it so fascinating is obviously, what the crimes that he committed, the redemption that he was seeking, and the life that he now had speaking to churches and schools. He wrote a book called Rising from the Ashes, I believe is the name of it. So we were going to go on a road show, he and I speaking, around Western New York and Toronto and places like that. And 30 days later, he died in his sleep. Just a wild story. Anyway, you can check that podcast out. Jerry was a guy that was seeking redemption. He couldn't get a job. He applied for over 200 jobs. Nobody would touch him with a 10-foot pole. So he went and got a truck because he found out real quick he had pristine credit because he's never had a credit card in his life. I think he had like an 800 credit score. He went and bought a truck, no money down, bought a trailer, no money down, and he was hauling junk every day, nonstop, 7 days a week to pay his bills. Just a fascinating guy, fascinating story. But anyway, yeah, I know, right? Drop that right in the middle of the podcast. What are you talking? How's this guy do with a dog? Well, so we were demoing the house. We got these puppies, and my wife's like, seriously? We're in the middle of demolition. This was 2010. We got our toaster on the dining room table. We got kids bathing in a clawfoot tub with no walls, and you bring up 2 puppies. Well, that was it, yeah. Anyway, these dogs have been with us forever, and we're going to have to say goodbye to them. I don't know when. I asked the vet. He goes, well, you're playing with a house's money now, at 14 years old. Not much longer. And it's like, you know what? That's going to crush my kids. These dogs grew up with our kids. Our youngest wasn't even born until these dogs were 4 years old, so that's really all they've known are these dogs. And, my buddy TJ back in the day, this was West Palm Beach. I remember back in the late 80s where we were having a beer. And he goes, you know what, Crowley? There's 2 things in this world that'll never do you wrong. I go, what's that, man? He said, a cold beer and a faithful dog. I go, oh, that's interesting. He goes, yeah, well, a faithful dog's obvious. They'll never do you wrong. They're always there for you. I go, what about the cold beer? He goes, when you really crave a beer, it's hot out, 90-degree day. Doesn't matter if it's a Heineken or a Schlitz, man. If it's cold, it tastes great. Never do you wrong. I'm like, yeah, that makes, if you're Socrates, man, but that makes sense to me. And so the reason I'm recording this podcast is for a number of reasons. Number one, I'm a huge dog lover. My brand every day is Saturday about doing the things you love with the people you love. And I love dogs. I mean, I'm out on a morning run or going for a walk. I stop. If somebody's walking their dog, I pet it if I'm allowed to. You got to kind of ask now, I guess. But, like, hey, I love this dog, no matter what breed it is. I'm a huge dog lover, always will be. So shout out to all the dog owners out there. Secondly, like I said before, you'll never get a complaint. And I love being around a complaint-free environment. I know my dogs are hurting. I know they got arthritis. I know they don't move like they used to, but they're there. And they're loyal, they're faithful, never have a bad day. And that's why I love being around my dogs, is because of what TJ said. They'll never do you wrong, And I try to operate my environment in the, the real world around humans the same way. Don't want to be around any negativity. I cut it right out. I change the environment. And I'm not a big, happy high notes guy. I know there's got to be that low note in life, but we don't got to dwell on it. We don't have to just sit there and complain all day long. Find a solution. Nobody's here to save you. You're here. You got to take it. You got to do it. There's nobody coming to your rescue. So if you're running into a situation, you got to figure it out, or pivot, move, go to a different direction. Don't, like Jim Rohn used to say, move. You're not a tree, And so always changing my environment to be around individuals that will be a positive influence on my life. I spent so many years around a negative influence that I said, I'm never doing this again. And the impact it's had on my life is absolutely incredible. And it's such a simple concept. Remove negative people out of your life. It seems so simple. But what if those are family members, close friends, people that you work with, and things like that? You just got to be intentional. I'm not saying you got to be mean to them. There's no reason for that. You can still send them a Christmas card and, whatever that looks like. But if you really want to find success and you want to live, I believe, your best life right now, you got to change the environment as best you can do. Some people just can't. You're in a job right now. You're around employees. It doesn't make sense. You're not going to quit your job and not be able to pay your mortgage. But there's other ways to do that. You can limit the amount of time. I used to just tune people out. Like I would just sing a song in my head while people were talking. Literally, just sing the song. I didn't hear a word they said. And I don't know. I don't know if that's scientific. I don't know if shrink would tell you to do that. Worked for me, and I'd just be singing a song as loud as I could in my head. I didn't hear a word. I just say, yep. Oh, wow. Yeah. Uh-huh. The one-word answers until I wasn't going to contribute to the conversation. That's like throwing more kindling on the fire, If there's a fire going, man, I have no interest in throwing more gas on it. So I'm just, yep, one-word answers, yep, uh-huh, mm-hmm, oh, good, okay. And then it would end. I gave it no more oxygen, and that until you find yourself where you really can just eliminate that part, change the environment, you got to do the best you can to block it out, It's not easy, but I think it's very simple to do. So a lesson from the dogs, the Border Collies. Man, I love Border Collies too. I don't know what our next dog's going to be. My wife says, hey, when they do pass, let's take a break, okay? Not getting a puppy right away. I'm like, oh, yeah, no worries. No worries, as I start looking online right now at different breeds. But Ginger and Lucy, this podcast was dedicated to you, the greatest girls ever. I'm a huge, huge fan of all canines, but really of everything positive. It's not just a dog. We framed today's message around that, but just creating that place where you can smile. It's easy to smile. It's a lot less muscles used in your face than it is to frown. But when you create that environment around you, it makes it a hell of a lot easier, man. A hell of a lot easier. All right. I hope this podcast found you in a good place today. Hope it planted a seed in good soil. And we'll see you back on the next episode. Sam Crowley, have the best day ever. And that's a wrap. Another Everyday is Saturday podcast in the books. Thanks so much for listening. Would you do your boy a favor? Would you get on iTunes or wherever you listen to the Everyday Saturday podcast and leave a rating for the show? It helps amazing people like you find the show faster. And that's what I'm looking for, amazing people like you. Hey, I'm always hanging out on the interwebs. You can check me out on Instagram at Everyday is Saturday. Let me know you're listening to the show. Love hearing from fans of the Everyday Saturday podcast. And one last thing, when you're ready to launch, get on my calendar, go to launchwithsam.com. You and I are going to work together to set rocket fuel to your dream. Are you ready? Let's do it. I'll see you on the next Everyday is Saturday podcast.